We've got, is it Andrew? You there?
Yeah.
Hi, you've been waiting a while. Thanks for waiting.
Yeah. I just want to say, I haven't been able to watch the show today, but I just watch them on the internet. I'm from Canton, Ohio, and it's funny that the girl that was just on, she like stole the words right out of my mouth about one of the first videos I saw was that guy asking why you don't die when the sun goes down.
Yeah.
And why you don't get electrocuted if you have bioelectricity in your, that keeps you alive. And I just, like, she stole the words. I mean, I just thought that was the funniest thing in the world that anyone could really think that.
And you start to realize once you do this for a few years that you think you've heard the craziest stuff ever, and then someone else calls.
And I think that caller, if I'm remembering right, I don't do that well with names, but I think it was JR, and he called frequently. And the reason, one of the reasons why, it's very rare that we would go take action to block somebody from calling or say don't call again. But I always encouraged his calls, not because I was anticipating something that would be particularly funny or viewed as stupid, but because despite the fact that he seemed to lack some understanding in specific areas, he did seem at least partially open to asking the questions and having those questions addressed. And it's nice and a bit of a coincidence that those calls ended up on a YouTube clip that prompted so many other viewers.
Yeah.
But there are other people. I'm much more concerned, not so much about somebody who isn't up enough on science to know why you don't die when you get in the shower. I'm far less concerned over those individuals than I am for the individuals who are adamant that they are right, that they have the moral high ground, that they are the chosen people of some divine being that is lifting them up to be an example to the world, that they should therefore disregard the rights and freedoms of others, and then enact legislation that does
Yeah.
that. Those are the people I'm far more worried about.
Right.
The people who are teaching their kids things that may make them eventually ask questions like, why we don't die when the sun goes down, because they're not teaching their kids how to think, they're just teaching them what to think and filling their heads full of, there's a magical being in the sky who loves you.
Yeah.
And it kind of concerns me. Oh, go ahead. I'll let you finish. I'm sorry.
I was just going to kind of say, like, one of the major things is, like, I'm surrounded by people nonstop, like where I work and in my day-to-day, and they look at me as like I'm the crazy person.
Right.
Or not thinking that there's some magical being who had to create everything, but he didn't have to have a creator. And I just think that a lot of it is because there are people out there that are so dumb that think, or uneducated. Some of them I just think, no matter how much you try to teach them, they're not going to get it. But others, they're just not educated, and that's what leads them to believe the crazy things that they do believe, is because they have no understanding of how anything works. And like a lot of them don't care how things work. And it's just sad to me that, people, so look, I've heard a lot of times on a lot of your guys' shows that I watch, like on Google, look at the birds and the trees, and they say, look around. And it's like, no, I don't think you've looked around. Realize how huge the universe is and appreciate things like that. And then re-ask yourself, is like this little planet really that, significant that...
Well, it's
what's
like
everything else for?
Well, I mean, it's the whole matter of, people want answers. They don't necessarily want to work for them, though. They don't necessarily want it to be a difficult study. And the thing about having a real science-based, fact-based understanding of the world and the universe we live in, it's incredibly rewarding, but it takes a whole great deal of study. For example, if somebody asks you, well, why do you think evolution is true, right? You have to give them a voice, right? So what's a voice, right? We were talking to DJ Grothy about this very thing. Whereas, on the other hand, ask a Christian what they find fulfilling about Christianity, and he gets sound bites, right? You know, they just talk about, you know, the feelings of fulfillment that they have. When people look for some sort of meaning and understanding in the universe, they're, you know, what religion hands you is this convenient packaged set of answers that, in addition to being fairly easy to grasp, well, there's a God and he did all this, and it's also, it's a way that people can project themselves onto the universe, right? God is essentially an idealized human self-image, right? It's this sort of image of perfection that people want to aspire to, want to believe that they really, really are deep down inside, and they want to project that onto the universe. And being able to project your own humanity onto the universe makes the universe a little less infinitely big and intimidating in some ways. And I think that that's kind of part of the appeal. And what happens, as you've just said, you know, with the people who don't really want to know, at a certain point, if that satisfies you, if what you're looking for is some sort of emotional fulfillment, which is what religion is about, and not necessarily just kind of cold hard facts, which, you know, is really what science is in the pursuit of, although I think, you know, I get a lot of emotional fulfillment out of understanding some of the wondrous stuff that scientific facts, you know, reveal to us about the universe. But still, if what you're just looking for are those sound bites, those simple emotional cues, well, then projecting yourself upon the universe and having something that validates that process for you is really valuable to people. And at a certain point, yeah, you do tend to talk to, we often talk to very fundamentalist creationists, people of that sort. And one thing you find about them is a lot of them are extremely intellectually incurious about the world.
It's not just ignorance. I mean, ignorance is curable.
Yeah.
But voluntary, willful, taking pride in your ignorance, that's not necessarily as easy to cure.
Yeah.
And this idea that, you know, reason is a bad thing and faith is a good thing.
Yeah, or it's just sort of like, well, you know, I've got the answers that I want. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I could really study how, you know, what's really up with the bacterial flagellum and understand, you know, from a scientific standpoint, what a fantastic, you know, bit of machinery that is, and how it evolved to be what it was. Yeah, or, you know, but that would take a lot of work, and so I can just, you know, accept the, you know, the religious answer, and have that sense of fulfillment and simply not care about the other. And that, to me, is the tragedy. When you get to the point where people have become so wrapped up in the religious ideology that they really don't, you know, they just don't care anymore. They're satisfied. But what they're satisfied with is something so small. When what science reveals is you can't really measure it. You know. But they just want to project themselves onto the universe. That's what religion lets them do.
Because that's comfortable. Then everything, there's not as many strange things.
Yeah.
There's, you know, we are generally uncomfortable with the idea of not knowing. And quite frankly, one of the things that I found surprisingly fulfilling about a life free of superstition and religious belief is that I had to come to the recognition that there are things that I'm not going to get the answers to. And I need to, you know, come to grips with that, with that reality. But that's tempered by the fact that we have the ability and are permitted by our intellect to actually pursue answers to questions and see exactly, you know, what we can determine. Thanks a lot for calling, Andrew. We
appreciate it, man.
Did you have anything?
I just want to say it was awesome.
Thanks,
well,
man. Yeah.
Call back anytime.